And it is now time for a motion to adjourn with MP Chris Famous and Dwayne Robinson, JP.
And welcome to Motion to Adjourn. Before we start, I want to do a little shout out here to the staff at BHB for adapting to the Pearl new electronic system. I was told to, shout them out because, this was something that they considered to be, a good deal. And I wanted to put that on there. Yeah. So just real quick, we have my co-host on the line, and we are joined in studio by our guest, Minister Owen Darrell. Famous, you got anything you'd like to open up with? I know we've not got you for the whole hour.
Yes, good afternoon, Brother Dwayne. Good afternoon, Brother Dawn, and good afternoon, Minister Honorable Owen K. Darrell.
Good afternoon,
JP.
MP. How are you? Good afternoon, Mr. Robinson. Good afternoon, Mr. Burgess. How are you today?
Yes.
Happy to be here.
I won't be able to stay on because I'm here to keep the old lights on. But I just want to take a moment firstly to give a shout out to the Southside family, Quality Street family, for the tribute that they put on for Mr. Kibbles Landy. Often we have our brothers and sisters pass away and people don't actually get to give them the tribute that they deserve. And for what I saw, the pictures that I saw, Mr. Sean Simmons, the OGS family, the Southside family, they gave him the tribute that he deserved. Today's special guest is a young man. Are you still a young man? Yeah, he's still a young man. Who I have watched grow up. We attended the same Sunday school. We went to the same high school, not at the same time. But someone who has dedicated his life to the betterment of the people of Bermuda. Often we look into the school system and there's not enough young black men there dedicating their lives to guiding the next generation of Bermudans. Mr. Owen K. Darrell, as a social studies teacher, dedicated his life to instilling Bermuda's heritage and culture into our young people. He made a transition into politics over the last 5 years, and he has worked tirelessly, always on end, ensuring that things are done that needed to be done. And last week, he was his further step as a minister of Bermuda's youth, culture, and sports. So without further ado, I introduce Minister Honorable Owen K. Darrell, JP.
Thank you, MP Famous, and I appreciate that much detailed introduction. And anyone that knows me, really knows me, knows that my entire life has been one of servant leadership. I did spend 15 years as an educator in Bermuda's two wonderful, excellent public school systems. Firstly at the Cedar Bridge Academy, teaching social science, secondary education. And then I moved on and spent 12 years at my alma mater, the Berkeley Institute, where when I left in 2017, I was a year head. And in that position, you did get to touch the students and their families a lot farther than you may have in just a classroom. So, yes, I think that the Premier has placed me in a portfolio which I know well, portfolio that I have much passion in, portfolio that I think I am well knowledgeable about, and I can't wait to bring this passion to the people of Bermuda and take this ministry to the next level. I would be remiss if I didn't make mention of my predecessor, Senator Ernest Peets, for the work that he did in that ministry over the last 2 years, and all that have come before me. So, MP Famous, Mr. Robinson, I am happy to be here. Thank you, sir.
Yes. So, with that, I'm gonna I'll start with the first question, and then I'll turn you over to my able-bodied partner, Mr. Robinson. So, let me ask you this, Minister: What made you, as as a black man. You could have been into IB, could have been into private sector. What made you say, you know what, I want to be a teacher in the public school system?
Well, that's actually interesting you say that, and not many people actually ask me that question. But I have the answer, and I'll give you the story that may surprise many people. If you know me, would know that my mother, whose birthday is today, let me give her a shout out. Happy birthday to Marlette Darrell. My mother was an educator for 40 years in many different capacities. And when people heard that I was in university studying secondary education, they said, "Oh, you're going to be a teacher like your mother." I actually did not leave Bermuda with the ambition to become an educator, to be honest. I did always have a love for social science and social studies, always. If you would have said, well, where are you going to end up? It may have been somewhere in maybe a tourist industry or something of that nature. So I did leave Bermuda in 1998 with the aspirations of getting a social science degree. And the university that I decided to attend, the University of Tampa, in Tampa, Florida, only offered a social science degree if you did a double major with an education degree. And I looked at it and I said, well, I don't really want to be an educator. And they said, well, the only way you can get a social science degree is if you do a double major, which is social science and secondary education. And, at that time, they had the career counselors and they were sitting down and they said, just go ahead and start the degree. If you don't like it, you can change. There's a lot of things that you can do with a social science degree. The education piece would be an added bonus. And I said, okay, I went on and I enrolled in classes. And the first course I did was a guy by the name of Ed Cloutier, and real energetic professor. And it was basically an intro to education course. And I always, few people that I've told this story, he actually got us to watch about 10 different movies that were specifically related to teachers. I can give you one that some people may know, the Samuel L. Jackson movie, 187. Another one that we watched was Dangerous Minds, Dead Poets Society, and To Serve with Love. We went through a bunch of different movies, and during watching those movies, it was basically a class about different education philosophies that different teachers have, and different problems that teachers would encounter, and how you deal with students in different ways. And I mean, from that class onward, I said, you know what, this is something that I can definitely take back to my home and put into practice with the youth and the community. And the end is history. That's how it went. I spent 4 years there. I did my practicum in Florida. I came home with the goal of teaching at the Barclay Institute, which at the time I came home, there were no social studies teachers spots available. So the current commissioner, Ms. Kalmar Richards, was so excited to have me, and that's how I got into teaching. So 15 years later, as moving into different leadership roles, I had built, I would say, a rewarding and successful career as an educator. So that's the story, MP Famous. That's how I became an educator.
Yeah, so before I sign off, I just want to say, as a father, I was fortunate to have you as a teacher to my son Joshua.
Absolutely.
And there was a time, a little incident, and you didn't just report him you didn't simply say, let me send this to the office. You, as a teacher, you came to my home, which you know very well.
Mm-hmm.
And you told us exactly what had happened, and it got dealt with. But my point is that is the old school philosophy of teaching, that Bermuda, the foundation of Bermuda, where you had a teacher who cared so much about the student, even when they transgress, the teacher still took his time to go and visit their parents and guardians, to not to just talk about the student, but to help bring that student back around to where they need to be. So I just want to thank you for that. I don't know if you remember that incident, but I would never forget it, and that's how one of the reasons I know you will do well in your current role. And of course, I will be remiss if I don't say hats off to Senator Pete for the work that he has done in this role prior. So now I'll turn you over to Mr. Robinson, and enjoy. Welcome to Motion to Adjourn.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, MP. All right. So just before we kick you into everything else, I give you the opportunity to let the people know what they can look forward to from you as the new minister.
Well, I would tell you this. Anyone that knows me knows that I am 100% dedicated to any task that I put my mind to. Hard work is not something that I am scared of. Since I entered the ministry on Thursday, I've been in my office at my desk. I've been reading. I've been going over all of the policies, all of the procedures, talking to people to see what has been done and what has been working, what has not been working. And on top of that, listening to the community. On day 1, day 2, day 3, there were emails and people, everyone has a story. Everyone has a request. And you can take those requests and you can pass it to a technical officer, or you can say, well, I'll get back to you, or you can, pick up the phone, listen to their concerns and see, well, how can we possibly, begin to deal with this, whether it be a long-standing issue or an issue that has recently come up. So definitely engagement is something that I look to continue, something that I enjoy. None of this that comes with this ministry is difficult. It's stuff that I naturally enjoy. I enjoy going to sporting events on the weekend. I enjoy cultural events, and the youth is something that I'm very much familiar with in my professional role. And in my personal life, I do have 2 young children who are youth, and they have to live in this community and they have to be successful in this community. So all of those things combined is a litany of items that I feel will be beneficial as I take on this new role.
Right. Well, thank you for that answer. So was this cabinet shuffle something that you knew about in advance? Because your predecessor and the other member of cabinet that was unappointed, it came across that they were a bit surprised by the shuffle. Was this something that you knew was coming on your pipeline in advance, or was it something that was very short notice?
Well, I'm sure anyone that's familiar with the political process would know that when the leader in this Westminster system decides to make any changes to his cabinet, there is no pre-warning, there is no promises made, and anyone who is asked to take up a different role than the one they may have had would be surprised. So we've seen many different administrations, many different premiers. We've seen cabinet shuffles, and I don't think you would be able to find one individual, one politician that says, you know what, I was not surprised and I'm, happy to go. That's the nature of politics. It is the nature of the system that we have. And, I and everyone else connected to my party, the Progressive Labour Party, have full confidence in the leader. And if that's the decision that he made, we all get behind him and we support it for the betterment of this country.
So the timing of that shuffle for many was something that raised, I would say, red flags. Right after a leadership conference, we see the appointment of someone who many deem as a loyalist to the premier, specifically. So when you look at that, people have become a bit, I would say, alarmed in a sense that it is a response to the leadership challenge, and that the premier is looking to surround himself with folks that are more likely to support him. What would you say to that?
Well, I would say that the terms that you're using, I guess, to describe myself are are a little offensive after I've just sit here and told you that I'm a hard worker and I'm dedicated to getting the work done. Now, I cannot speak to the thinking of the leader of the Progressive Labour Party, also the Premier, as to why he decided to change his cabinet the way he did. But as he has explained before, individuals at times take up different roles. And if he believes that that is the way that a more efficient way for his government to work for the people, then he has that prerogative. And I don't think it's for us to sit here and question the decisions that he made. But my job as the appointed Minister of Youth, Culture and Sport is to do the best of my ability to support the policies that the government have put in place based on the last election of 2020.
So some would say that, it is necessary for us to indeed question certain things when we have leadership that has been considered a bit autocratic. But I won't get into the weeds of that. What can we then expect going forward with the handover? Because I know you've just started. But what initiatives or things are you looking to bring forward or continue on from your predecessor?
What's interesting, there were three major policies that have come out of the ministry, and one is the National Youth Policy. The other one would be the National Sports Policy. And previously, before both of those, there was the National Cultural and Heritage Policy. And I've actually taken some time over the last couple of days. I've gone through all three of those, and each one of them have specific objectives. The National Sports Policy has 5 specific objectives. The National Youth Policy has 8 specific objectives. And the National Cultural Policy has 6 specific objectives. And what I've done is I've sat down and I have meetings with the management of the different departments next week. And what I want to say is, what is the priorities that will most effectively help the people right now? And that's where I'm going to start. And I want to make immediate impact in the community and something that people can say, you know what, this directly benefits me, and whether it be sport, whether it be youth, whether it be culture. These policies and stripping them down and saying, well, we're going to make this a priority right now is something that people can be proud of and say, wow, this government is really working for me.
Something with sport, something that we hear often is, long-term development of athletes.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about that, and what do you intend to do to support that growth?
It's interesting you say that. Just last night, I attended a AGM and awards ceremony for the national sports governing bodies, and I went into the room and it was full. And there are about 25 nationally recognized national sports governing bodies, and all of them have the goal and the objective to raise elite athletes to represent Bermuda. And one of the key requests of the national sports governing bodies is continued support from the government. And that doesn't always just mean financial support. Sometimes that may mean the support of facilities and being able to find a balance where the government can support their development in usage of facilities, support their development in how we increase participation, and the like. So that was a very important meeting that initially I didn't think I could make it, but I was briefed and I got a couple of calls, and I am glad that yesterday evening I was able to attend the meeting for brief time for the Association of National Sports Governing Bodies.
Thank you. And your predecessor spoke a bit about increased funding. In that, are you looking to continue in that pledge to give increased funding in that regard?
Well, I don't wish to speak out of turn at this time. I know that there are individuals that are putting budget together as we speak. And like I said, we'll be meeting next week with the managers of the different departments, the controller, and we'll be able to look and see, what funds are going to be allocated where.
Okay. And regarding obviously the people's mood because I think that's something that we always have to take into account as politicians, as people, regardless of what side of the aisle we are on. Though we may not see eye to eye, I would like to ask you, how have you felt your reception has been since taking this post, and how do you feel that the reception has been to the shuffle in total?
That's interesting. I would say that I'd like to say thank you, first of all, because there has been no shortage of telephone calls, emails. My mom just returned home from overseas today, and she says, my voicemail is full of people with congratulations, people that I don't even know on the street. And the part that makes me the most proud is when they say, we know that you will work hard. And that doesn't say that anybody else doesn't work hard, but people know the energy that I have. They know the passion that I have. And that has been the overwhelming response for people that actually have watched, and people that actually know my pedigree, and people that actually know my work ethic. No, you will get individuals that have no clue who I am, and they will say all sorts of things and make all sorts of aspersions. But you have to stay focused. You have to stay focused on the job that the Progressive Labour Party has entrusted me to do, the job that the leader has entrusted me to do as a senator, as a Senate leader, and as a minister, to do the work of the people and do it to the best of my ability. And so I would say that the response has been overwhelmingly positive, and it shouldn't surprise anyone. I think that in recent weeks and recent months, the record of the Progressive Labour Party is stellar as far as what we are trying to do, how we brought people through this pandemic, and how we are also attempting to bring individuals through the economic struggles that we're currently seeing. So I'm not surprised by the overwhelming support and just people just looking for great things.
Well, on that note, we'll take a break and we'll come right back.
Attention all Bermuda! The New Reform Productions presents the annual Solid Gold Old School New School Double Floor Party on Saturday, November 5th, the night the clock goes back at the Spinning Wheel Entertainment Complex. This is the Big People's Party with 2 floors to party for 1 admission. Doors open up at 9:30. Featuring 3 of Bermuda ambassadors, DJ Roddy Gunn, the Iceman, and DJ Juggling Jason, all on the lower level. And on the upper level, more great Bermudian talent, featuring DJ Shaba, DJ Lady Jada, DJ Hershey, and DJ Randy Rich, alongside DJ Trevon. You can get your $20 advance tickets at Jazz's Boutique, Casey's Cocktail Lounge, and the Spinning Wheel. Admission will be more at the door. Make sure you dress to impress, because it will be ID and security checks. So come correct at the Spinning Wheel. It's all sponsored by Goslings Limited, Island Construction Limited, Auto Solutions, Roll With Us, Trip, The Money Shop, and the Spinning Wheel. That's the night the clock goes back, Saturday, November 5th. We'll see you there.
You're locked to Power 95, Bermuda's big station, at 94.9 FM, a Bermuda Broadcasting Company station.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gray Miners with Bermuda Broadcasting News with your top stories to the hour, brought to you by Butterfield.
Take control of your Butterfield credit card by downloading the Butterfield Card Alerts app. Monitor your spending activity with real-time transaction alerts sent directly to your mobile device. And if your card is lost or stolen, use the app to turn the card off, preventing any further transactions from being processed. Download the app from the Apple Store or Google Play Store today. Customized credit card controls. This is banking by Butterfield. The Bank of N.T. Butterfield & Son Limited is licensed to conduct banking business by the Bermuda Monetary Authority.
Frances Ivy Edwards became the first Bermudian to have a digital medical record when she was born to parents Caitlin and Thomas Edwards this week. Frances was born at 5:35 a.m. on Monday morning, with her birth making her the first resident who will have a completely electronic medical record. The hospital launched its new system, Pearl, over the weekend. Mother Caitlin Edwards said Frances was not just the first in the family to have a digital birth record, she's the first in the island, a fun fact she can always be proud of. Deputy Governor Tom Oppenheim will present the 2022-23 speech from the throne tomorrow morning. The convening of the legislature will return to the cabinet grounds with full pomp and pageantry as the government's legislative agenda is set out for the parliamentary year. Traffic delays into Hamilton are expected. And those were your top stories to the hour, brought to you by Butterfield.
Now back to Motion to Adjourn with MP Chris Famous and Dwayne Robinson.
Hi, welcome back to Motion to Adjourn. So, just following off of your last comment, there is an outcry for more from the Progressive Labour Party. Do you, as a minister, feel as though that is why you were appointed, or do you feel like that's what you bring to cabinet? Your addition will bring more to the table? Because there are some that are measuring you and Mr. Pete's credentials and not seeing too big of a difference. Both of you have very impressive resumes. So, what was that edge you think that the people will receive from you that will improve the overall standard of the ministry?
Well, I, first of all, don't think it's fair or wise to get into any comparisons between myself and my still Senate colleague. So I'm not going to go down that road. I can say that I sat around a cabinet table on Tuesday with some extremely impressive men and women who are ministers of the Progressive Labour Party. And I can tell you that I am proud to be part of the team that is going to lead this country through the economic issues that we're having right now. And I'm pleased that we are just some of the faces that people will see. But it is many, many others that you will not see. And the Progressive Labour Party is blessed to have an array of talent. If you would have seen the room that was packed 2 weeks ago, I mean, I know certain publications only wanted to talk about a particular race that was happening, and they wanted to really get, the as we call it, juicy stuff. But I was proud as a former chairman of the Progressive Labour Party to walk into the hall on the night of October 19th, 20th, and 21st and see the talent that the Progressive Labour Party has at their disposal and how we are able to actually put people into different places and different positions. And some people don't want to be on frontline politics. But I will tell you that whether it be the ministers, right on down to CC reps or members of the branches, the Progressive Labour Party is blessed to have so much talent. And I think that's why the Premier can make changes and feel confident that the work of the government will continue to progress at a high level.
Yes. So with that being said, as we're not going to get into comparisons, the people who look to this government for leadership, right? They look to the ministers each to, represent and embody their ministries. So when a shuffle happens, folks tend to look for added value, right? So if there isn't going to be any sort of comparison, or if there's no added value as far as something specifically that you bring, that is a bit questionable about as far as why the shuffle occurred. And I remember also seeing that it was to reduce the size of cabinet, but that didn't seem to be an issue before. So the reason why I'm asking is because if it wasn't for added value and it wasn't for, something special that's brought, then why the shuffle so last minute?
The work of this cabinet will be seen in the progress that Bermuda makes in the coming weeks and months. And I'm looking forward to being a part of it.
All right. So we hadn't talked about the cultural part of your ministry. Is there anything you'd like to add in that regard as far as what's coming down the pipeline? Well,
there are a lot of different cultural nuances that are coming out. One of the events that just happened, and I if anyone listens to the Senate, they would have heard that I gave a very lengthy speech regarding the Gombeys, and that is the first thing that comes to mind when people speak of culture in Bermuda. But I can tell you that I got an email that came across my desk today, and it was from, I don't want to mess up the details now, but it was basically congratulating some individuals who received scholarships from the Bermuda Arts Council. and there were some writers and some other poets, and they traveled to a conference last year, and this international individual basically wrote and was basically saying to the Arts Council, thank you very much for choosing these individuals and sending them. So there is amazing things going on in all different genres of culture in Bermuda. We've got a young lady, and I do apologize, I'm remiss the name, but I was at the art gallery last night where the actual meeting was happening, and it was pointed out to me that there was a young lady that had some art on display, and I'll get that name, but it's just one of the things I'm going to do initially is actually get out there and bring exposure to the different types of culture that are actually happening in Bermuda, because although the Gombe's are amazing and everyone loves them, including myself, there are so many aspects of culture that are doing really well, and I think Bermudians should really take time and get to know a bit more.
And will we see any sort of tie-over between, the improvements made in the cultural sphere of Bermuda to tourism? Because I know a lot of locals feel as though, tourism may not feature Bermudians as much, or their heritage or culture. Do you see any sort of tie-over in that from yourself to the Ministry of or the BTA?
The answer is absolutely. And I'm going to use one example that happened this weekend. And I was really, really proud and happy to see it. If anyone would have attended the Butterfield Bermuda Golf Championship on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, you would have seen something that a lot of people were posting on social media that was cute, but it actually was a representation of an outside management company and an outside big worldwide PGA tour coming into Bermuda and really trying to understand the culture and the people of where they are. And that was the signs. If anybody knows golf, there are people that hold up signs that say, quiet, please. There was signs that said, stop your noise. And once I saw that, I actually, and I have a friendship relationship with the golf director and the assistant director. I want to say congratulations to both of them for putting an event. But I actually had that conversation. I said, where did that come from? And they both said that it was important for them to, and this is what I think their fourth year in Bermuda, but it was important for them to bring more of a cultural atmosphere to their event. And I'm just using that one example, but that was an example where I thought was actually brilliant, where it was, we've been here for the last couple of years. We've understand how Bermudians talk. We understand their dialect, and we're going to, even if it's a small measure, incorporate it into our event. So that is just one example. But to go back to your initial question, yes, this ministry that I am now leading has the ability to touch into multiple different ministries. The Ministry of Education is one, because obviously they deal with youth. Mm-hmm. We have a meeting with someone just yesterday who talked about mental health in youth, and that obviously will touch into the Department of Social Development and Seniors. Mm-hmm. And as you said, we'll have more connections with tourism. So this ministry is one that is going to have a lot of cross-ministry connections and collaborations, mm-hmm. all for the betterment of the people of Bermuda. And if we can keep that in mind, that is the focus, that it's for the people, I think we'll be fine.
Thank you for that. So we have, obviously, all of us know it's been, a streak of crime lately. And with youth in your ministry, many believe that, that is where we can kind of make the most impact in trying to stop this trend of violence. Do you, see any increased support financially for our sports clubs, who many believe are obviously the beating heart of a lot of communities and could be a great source of supporting these young people at a young age and getting them out of, antisocial or at-risk behavior?
Oh, again, I'm not going to preempt the budget process that the ministries are doing, and I don't wish to sit here and make any promises or cut any checks that I can't cash. However, I will say that this government, as everyone should be aware of by now, has put millions over the last 2 years into community clubs and sports clubs in the capital development and the confiscated assets funds. Just my community club, which I am a part of, the Harrington Workmen's Club, also known as to a lot of people as Dabble's Hole Club, is an example of the transformation that they have done based on some of the funding that they have actually received from government. And one, yes, the aesthetics, it looks nice, it looks pretty, but with that building getting an upgrade and being able to be open, because it was closed for 2 years, but with that building being able to be open, you will see that the upper hall is now able to host more youth programs. They're able to not only have training on the field, but bring in the youth and develop them in a different way, in an environment that is safe and comfortable, other than hoping to meet on the side of a field when the weather's nice. You will see a community club like Workmen's, who are actually celebrating their 100th anniversary this week. There's a lot of events going on, and I will be attending on Friday. But Workmen's also were the recipients of some funding from government, and their funding specifically was to improve the facilities for their youth cricket program. So yes, I would hope that the funding and would continue in some way, shape, or form. But I'll be remiss if I didn't point out and remind you that there has been a lot of funding that has gone to community clubs up and down this country to specifically help the development of youth sportsmen in this country.
And another sticking point for some is Sands 360. And I didn't know I know you can't preempt the budget, but is there any comments that you could offer as far as Sands 360?
Well, I do know that Sands 360 comes under the Ministry of Public Works. So I cannot speak on Sands 360 at this time because I have very little knowledge of Sands 360 and the position that it's currently in.
Okay. So with that, right, if you could give us just a brief walkthrough of your first day stepping into the office as the new Minister of Youth and Sport, how did that look? Just for people who are unaware of what it is a minister's day-to-day duties without divulging anything confidential, without divulging anything that is, untoward, but just...
Okay, so first of all, I walked into the office, and the Youth and Sport headquarters is a relatively different one than most government offices that people may be familiar with. It's actually a very modern, open plan office. And if you know about companies and businesses that actually have moved to open plan offices, it is a more efficient way of running your office, and it's kind of more shared resources. So that was the first kind of shock for me. I said, "Oh wow, this is different, right, than what we're used to in seeing different offices and different cubicles." So that was kind of what it looked like as I walked in. And then you sit down and you have a permanent secretary who sits down, and they say, okay, put a binder in front of you and say, well, this is basically everything that encompasses this ministry. And this is why I say with just a weekend now, it's very important that you sit down and you read and you understand the nitty gritty of what has happened in this ministry, what is currently happening, and what the outlook is for going forward. So that's the first thing you do. You basically look at a list of events, because in this role, I made a joke somewhere the other day that my weekends are going to be non-existent now, because most all sporting and cultural events happen on the weekend. So you go through a list of events that the public wants you to attend, and you go through it, and you adjust your life, you adjust your schedule, because it's very important that, especially in this role, and anyone who's in politics and in service, gets out and actually is part of the work that you are doing. So that's what it looked like on the first day, and most of it was a lot of reading. I left with a large box or binder of notes, And I'm actually happy to say that I've gone through most of it, and I have a really good handle as to where we are and the amazing things that the staff that work in all departments under the ministry are doing.
Well, thank you for that. And I asked you that question because, as Famous will probably tell you as well, is that, the main thing we like to do on the show is to give somebody a little bit of inside knowledge onto certain things. Because people look at government, they look at certain roles, they don't really get to see the inner workings or any of those sort of things. So we try to impart that onto folks.
Yeah, and if I didn't make it clear, there were lots of public officers, and that is the heartbeat of any ministry. It's the individuals that are working, and as you say, there are changes in ministers from time to time, but many of those hardworking public officers have been there for many, many years, and they go through different ministers, different political parties, and they are constant in the jobs that they do. So if any of them are listening, I would like to say that I definitely appreciate all the work that they bring to the office every single day, and any public officer that we have listening.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Well, I think we'll take our last break, and then we'll come back and wrap up.
Spectrum Organics is a food company in step with the organics worldview and produce culinary oils of very high quality determined by the wholesomeness and purity of the ingredients and innovative chemical-free extraction and processing. Spectrum has been refining their skills for over 30 years and now are the #1 natural and organic culinary oil brand. This trend arises from health considerations, but the importance of flavor will never be sidelined. We're featuring Spectrum Organics refined and unrefined extra virgin coconut oil. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
You'll spend over $1,000 on a really cool new phone this Christmas. For just a little bit more, you can start getting an education at Bermuda College that'll get you a job that'll pay for really cool new phones for the rest of your life. Do the math. It just makes sense. Bermuda College. College.bm.
The family farmers who own Welch's insist on making 100% grape juice with no added sugar, colors, or flavors. At harvest time, they pick Concord and Niagara grapes at the peak of their flavor and deliver them within hours to be fresh pressed into delicious Welch's 100% grape juice. Rich in antioxidants, our grape juice adds bold flavor and a nutritional boost to your diet. Visit Welch's.com for healthy recipes.
Have your scan at HMC Burnaby Urgent Care and Medical Imaging, which has Bermuda's most up-to-date imaging equipment, providing optimal imaging quality using lower radiation compared to older scanners. The European Society of Radiology states that the replacement of radiological equipment older than 10 years is essential. The Canadian Radiology Association's life cycle guidelines for CT and MRI scanners are 8 and 6 years respectively. Do insist that your doctor sends you for your next scan, whether MRI, CT, X-ray, mammography, bone density, or ultrasound, to HMC. Due to the Supreme Court's ruling, all scans are covered by your insurance, including HIP and Future Care. While the Health Council continues to appeal that court decision, it remains in place. HMC Burnaby, up-to-date, better, and safer technologies. HMC.bm. It's your right to choose.
Now back to Motion to Adjourn with MP Chris Famous and Dwayne Robinson.
And we're back. Thank you so much for joining us. And, I just want to say that, the show was bred to be, nonpartisan. Now, I will say I have been one of your open critics. And I will say that though I have criticized you, I do not want you to be unsuccessful. And the reason why I say that is because at the end of the day, any unsuccessful minister harms us all, regardless of whatever opinions I may have, personally or professionally. At the end of the day, the government must succeed. And I tell all the ministers that come on this show that exact same thing. So I do want you to succeed, and I will be watching. I'm sure the entire island will be, as to how you progress forward in this. So I will give you an opportunity to, speak to any sort of criticism you might have had, if you so choose, and to impart some some last words to the folks of Bermuda after you've done that.
Thank you, Dwayne. I appreciate those words. What I will say is that, and I'll kind of finish off the way I did start, is that those individuals that truly know Owen Darrell will know that his heart is in the right place. They will know that there's not a day that goes by that I'm not trying to seek to make things better than what they are currently. They will also know that not a day goes by that I don't put my head down and grind. And they will also know that my father, Oliver Darrell, raised me to understand that the word can't doesn't exist. And they will also know that as an educator, the term and the word excuses also is something that I also push to the side. So I will not respond to any criticisms. I did respond to an interesting one last weekend. Some of you may have seen it, but it was lighthearted, a little bit of fun. But this is the life that I live. What you see is what you get, and it is 100% genuine. And I look forward to doing all that I can in this role that I've been appointed to, for the betterment of our country, for the betterment of the youth, for the betterment of anyone involved in culture, the betterment of sport. And in that ministry, it is their hopes that those departments and those topics will spill out into other cross ministries, and collectively this government will be successful in bringing positivity to the country.
Okay, and we hope to have you back on to follow up with any progress you might have made. I know it's a little early in your tenure right now to really say too much, but the island itself is looking for a shift. It's looking for a push. You know what I mean? So I'm really hoping that when we come back, or we have you back on in a few months or a year or whatever it is, we can schedule you back on, that, that sort of progress is laid out.
And while I do appreciate the invitation by MP Famous and yourself, I will tell you this. No one in this community has to wait to hear from Owen Darrell. You will see me in the community day in, day out, and at any point in time that you have suggestions, you have questions, you have criticisms, I'm one that will be welcome to listen and have a dialogue at all times. So thank you.
Thank you. And before we close, I just want to wrap by saying thank you to the minister for taking time out of his day to come down and speak to us, and also that, we wish him well in his endeavors. So, and also to let people know the next show, because I don't want to get in trouble with my co-host. The next show is Mr. Ron Grant, who is the host of 284 News, Virgin Islands. It'll be a territories talk, so we can hear from one of our sister territories down south. So with that, we'll adjourn until next week, Thursday. And we hope you enjoyed the show. Please continue to reach out to us and let us know what we can do to make it better for you. We'll see you next Thursday.
And you have been listening to Motion to Adjourn with MP Chris Famous and Dwayne Robinson, JP.
You're locked to Power 95, Bermuda's big station at 94.9 FM, a Bermuda Broadcasting Company station. Take us with you wherever you go. Listen on your iPad, iPod, smartphone, your computer, or your laptop. Blazing hip-hop, R&B, and reggae jams. 94.9 FM, Power 95.
Me, I think was something special. Been connected, soul and mind. This ain't even sexual. Wait.